Hello and Jai Swaminarayan to all. Today for Standard 9 Science in Physics portion we are going to continue our chapter 10 which was gravitation. The topics that we are going to discuss today are 10.5 thrust and pressure, which has three subtopics, in which the first one is pressure in fluids, second one is buoyancy, and third one is why objects float or sink when placed on the surface of water. The next topic is 10.6 Archimedes principle, and last one is 10.7, which is relative density. So these are the topics that we are going to discuss in this video. So let's start with topic 10.5, which is thrust and pressure. Have you ever wondered why a camel can run in a desert very easily? Why an army tank weighing more than 1,000 of tons rests upon a continuous chain? Why a truck or motor bus has much wider tires? Why cutting tools have sharp edges? In order to address these questions and understand the phenomena involved, it helps to introduce the concept of net force in a particular direction, or say thrust, and force per unit area, say pressure, acting on the object concerned. Let us try to understand the meaning of thrust and pressure by considering two situations. In situation 1, you wish to fix a poster on a bulletin board as shown in figure 10.3. To do this task, you will have to press the drawing pins with your thumb. You can apply a force on surface area of the head of the pin. The force is directed perpendicular to the surface area of the board, means the force that you are giving to the pins is perpendicular to the surface area of the board, and this force acts on a smaller area at the tip of that pin which you are uh, trying to use to pin up that poster. Now let us look at situation 2. In situation 2, you stand on a loose sand. Your feet go deep into the sand. Now lie down on that sand. You will find that your body will not go to that deep in the sand. In both the cases, the force that is exerted on the sand is weight of your body. You have learned that the weight is the force acting vertically downwards. Means you learn that the weight is that force that is acting in vertically downwards. Here the force is acting in perpendicular to the surface of the sand, as we have seen in the case of our situation 1. The force that is acting on an object that is perpendicular to the surface is called thrust. Means the force that is object in a perpendicular direction to a particular surface, it is known as thrust. When you stand on loose sand, the force, the weight, that is the weight of your body is acting on an area that is equal to your feet. When you lie down, the same force acts on the area that is equals to the contact area of your whole body, which is larger than the area of your feet. Means when you are on the loose sand, then the weight of your body is acting on the area will be equal to your feet. But when you lie down, the same force will act an area equal to contact of your whole body, means your whole body is larger than the area of your feet, so the area that your body covers will be in contact, and thus the effects of force of the same magnitude on different areas are different. Means magnitude uh, on different areas of different effect of force are different. In above cases, the thrust is same, but effects are distant, and therefore the effect of thrust depend on the area on which it acts. Means it will depend on the amount of area. The effect of thrust on sand is larger while standing than while lying, and the thrust on unit area is called pressure, and thus pressure is equals to thrust divided by area, which is our equation 10.20. Substituting the SI unit of thrust and area in equation 10.20, we get the SI unit of pressure as Newton per meter square or Newton meter square. In honor of scientist Blaise Pascal, the SI unit of pressure is also called Pascal, and it is denoted as PA. Let us look at an example, example 10.6. According to the question, A block of wood is kept on a tabletop and the mass of the wooden block is 5 kg and its dimensions are 40 centimeter by 20 centimeter by 10 centimeter. Find the pressure that is exerted by the wooden block on the tabletop if it is made to lie on the tabletop with its sides of the dimensions 20 by 10 centimeter and 40 by 20 centimeter. So let's look at the solution. According to our solution, the mass of the wooden block is 5 kg, which is already given in the question, and also the dimension are given, which are 40 by 20 by 10 centimeter. Here the weight of the wooden block applies a thrust on the tabletop. That is, the thrust is equals to F is equals to M into G, which is equals to 5 kg, means force is equals to mass into G, which is equals to 5 kg multiplied by 9.8 meter per second. The value of G we have calculated in our previous video. So mass into G is equals to 5 kg into 9.8 meter per second, which will give us answer as 49 Newton. So our thrust value is 49 Newton. Now the area of the side is length into breadth. You all know this formula, length into breadth. So length into breadth is equals to 20 into 10, which is equals to 200 centimeter square, which will equals to 0.02 meter square. Now pressure, the formula of pressure, you all know that pressure is equals to thrust divided by area, and our thrust value is 49 Newton and our area is 0.02 meter square. So pressure is equals to 49 Newton divided by 0.02 meter square, which will give us answer as 2450 Newton per meter square. Now when the block lies on its side of dimension 40 centimeter by 20 centimeter, then it exerts the same thrust, but the area will be different. The area is length into breadth, which is in this case 40 into 20 centimeter, which will give us 800 centimeter square, that will be equals to 0.08 meter square, and the pressure will also change. The pressure will be equals to 49 Newton divided by 0.08 meter square, which will give us answer as 612.5 Newton per meter square. So these are our solutions. In case A, when block lies on its dimension 40 by 20 by 10, it will give us pressure as 2450 Newton per meter square. But when the block will lie down on the side 40 by 20 centimeter, it will give us the answer as 612.5 Newton per meter square. So this is our solution. Thus, the same force acting on a smaller area exerts a larger pressure, and smaller pressure on larger area means the pressure will be small when the area is large, but the pressure will be large when the area is small. And this is the reason when a nail has a pointed tip, knives have sharp edges, and building have wide fountains. Now we'll see our first subtopic, which is pressure in fluid. All the liquids and gases are fluids. A solid exerts pressure on a surface due to its weight. Similarly, fluids also have weight, and they also exerts pressure on the base and walls of container in which they are enclosed. Means the fluids will exert pressure in the containers where they are enclosed. Pressure exerted in any condition, mass of fluid is transmitted undiminished in all the directions. So it is any type of fluid, it will also exert pressure. Means there is not a thing that only solid things will exert pressure, but the liquid thing or gas which are also fluid, they also exert the amount of pressure in which they are enclosed. Let us see our second subtopic, which is buoyancy. Have you ever had a swim in a pool and felt lighter? Means, have you ever felt that when you are swimming in a pool, you felt yourself lighter? Or have you ever drawn water from a well and felt that the bucket of water is heavier when it is out of the water? Have you ever wondered why a ship made up of iron or steel does not sink in a sea water, but while the same amount of iron and steel is in the form of a sheet would sink? These questions can be asked by taking buoyancy in consideration. So let us understand the meaning of buoyancy by doing an activity. According to our activity, which is activity 10.4, take an empty plastic bottle, close the mouth of that bottle with an airtight stopper. Put it in a bucket which is filled of water. You can see that the bottle floats. Means you have taken an empty plastic bottle and close its mouth with a airtight stopper. And when you place that empty bottle in a bucket filled of water, the bottle will start floating. Now try to push the bottle into the water. You feel an upward push, means you will feel like the bottle is pushing you. Try to push it further down. You will find it difficult to push deeper and deeper. This indicates that the water exerts a force, and the force on the bottle is in upward direction. The upward force that is exerted by water goes on increases as bottle is pushed deeper till it's completely immersed. Now release the bottle. It will bounce back to the surface. Does the force due to the gravitational attraction of the earth act on the bottle? If so, then why doesn't the bottle stay immersed in the water after it is released? How can you immerse the bottle in the water? Such questions arises. The answer to these questions are: the force that is due to the gravitational attraction of the earth acts on the bottle in downward direction. So the bottle is pulled downwards, but the water exerts an upward force on the bottle, and thus the bottle is pushed upward. Means the bottle is pushed upwards due to the force that is exerted by water in upward direction. We have learned that weight of an object is the force due to gravitational attraction of the earth. When bottle is immersed, the upward force that is exerted by water on bottle is greater than the weight of bottle, and therefore it rises up when it is released. To keep the bottle completely immersed, the upward force on the bottle due to the water must be balanced. This can be achieved by an extremely applied force that is acting downwards. This force must at least be equal to difference between the upward force and the weight of the bottle. The upward force that is exerted by the water on the bottle is known as upthrust or buoyant force. In fact, all the objects experience a force of buoyancy when they are immersed in a fluid, and the magnitude of this buoyant force depend on the density of that fluid. Let us move to our third subtopic, which is why the objects float or sink when they are placed on the surface of water. So, let us do the following activity to arrive an answer for this topic. According to the activity, which is activity 10.5, take a beaker which is filled with water. Take an iron nail and place it on the surface of that water and observe what happens. The nail sinks. The force due to the gravitational attraction of the earth on the iron nail pulls it downwards, and there is an upthrust of water on the nail which pushes it upward. But the downward force acting on the nail is greater than the upthrust of the water on the nail, and so the nail sinks as shown in figure 10.5. We'll see another activity, activity 10.6. According to that activity, take a beaker which is filled with water again. Take a piece of cork and an iron nail of the equal mass. Place them on the surface of water. Observe what happens. The cork floats while the nail sinks. This happens because of the difference in the density. This we are talking about the figure which we seen previously, which was our figure 10.5, in which we have take two things, a nail and a cork, and when you put both of these things in the water, the cork will float while the nail will sink, and this happen because of the difference in the densities. The density of a substance is defined as the mass per unit volume. The density of cork is less than the density of water, while the density of the nail is more than the density of water. This means that the upthrust of water on the cork is greater than the weight of the cork, and so it will float. But as I said that the density of iron nail is more than density of water, the upthrust of the water on the iron will be less than the weight of the nail, and so it will sink, and therefore the objects of density that is less than that of the liquid floats on the liquid, while the object that has density greater than that of the liquid sink in that liquid. So this was the answer to the question that why objects float or sink when placed on the surface of water. All the game is the density of the particular object that you put inside that water. Now we will move to our next topic, which is topic 10.6, Archimedes principle. In order to understand Archimedes principle, let's do an activity, activity 10.7. Take a piece of stone and tie it to one end of a rubber string or a spring balance. Then suspend the stone by holding the balance or the string as shown in figure 10.6a. Note the elongation of the string or reading on the spring balance due to the weight of that stone. Now slowly dip the stone in the water in a container as shown in figure 10.6b. Observe what happens to elongation of the spring or the reading of the balance. You'll find that the elongation of string or reading of the balance decreases as the stone is gradually lowered into the water. However, no further changes is observed once the stone gets fully immersed inside the water. Why do you infer from the decrease in the extension of string or the reading of spring balance? We know that elongation produced in the string or the spring balance is due to the weight of that stone. And since the extension decreases, once the stone is lowered in water, it means that some amount of force acts on that stone in upward direction. And so there is a change in the balance or in reading. As a result, the net force on the string decreases and also the elongation decreases. As discussed earlier, this upward force that is exerted by the water is known as the force of buoyancy. What is magnitude of buoyant force that is experienced by a body? Is it the same in all fluid for a given body, or do all bodies in a given fluid experience the same buoyant force? The answer to all these questions is contained in Archimedes principle that is stated as follows. According to Archimedes principle, when a body is immersed fully or partially in a fluid, it experiences an upward force that is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by it. Archimedes principle has many applications. It is used to designing ships and submarines, lactometers, which are used to determine the purity of sample of milk, and hydrometer that is used to determine density of liquid. And based on this principle, means Archimedes principle says that when your body is either fully or partially into any type of fluid, then it will experience an upward force, and that force will be equal to the weight of the fluid that is displaced by it. Means the force will be equal to the amount of your body that is inside the water or the fluid inside which your body is immersed. This was Archimedes principle. Now we'll move toward our next topic 10.7, which is relative density. As you know that the density of a substance is defined as mass of a unit volume. The unit of density is kilogram per meter cube. The density of a given substance under specified condition remains the same, means under any condition the density of any substance that is given to us remains same, and therefore the density of a substance is one of its characteristic properties. It is different for different substances. For example, the density of gold is 19,300 kilogram per meter cube, while that of the water is 1000 kilogram per meter cube. The density of a given sample of a substance can help us to determine its purity. Means in order to determine the purity of any substance, it is given by the density. It is often convenient to express the density of a substance in comparison with that of the water. The relative density of any substance is ratio of its density to the water. Means relative density is equal to density of that substance divided by density of water. And since the relative density is a ratio of similar quantity, it has no unit. Let us do another example, which is example 10.7, according to which relative density of the silver is 10.8 and the density of water is 10 cube kilogram per meter cube, means 1000 kilogram per meter cube. We have to find the density of silver in SI units. So let's look at the solution. In our solution, the relative density of silver is 10.8, which is already given in the question. And we also know the formula for relative density is equals to density of the substance divided by density of water. Means in this case, density of silver divided by density of water. In order to find the density of silver, we have to take the density of water, which is in division, on right hand side to left hand side, and when we take the density of water from denominator to left hand side, it will go in multiplication with relative density, and hence we will get the density of silver equals to relative density of silver multiplied by density of water, which is equals to 10.8 multiplied by 10 cube kilogram per meter cube, or we can say 10.8 multiplied by 1000 kilogram meter per cube. So this is our answer for density of silver in SI unit. So here we have completed our chapter 10 gravitation. Now let us look to a quick summary. So let's see. First, the law of gravitation states that the force of attraction between any two objects is proportional to the product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. The law applies to object anywhere in the universe. Such a law is said to be universal. Gravitation is a weak force. Second is gravitation is a weak force unless large masses are involved. Third is the force of gravity decreases with altitude. It also varies on the surface of the earth, decreasing from the poles to the equator. Fourth is the weight of the object is the force with which the earth attracts it. Fifth is the weight is equal to product of mass and acceleration due to gravity. Sixth is the weight may vary from place to place but the masses stay constant. Seventh is all the experience of a force of buoyancy when they are immersed in a fluid. And eighth is object having density that is less than that of liquid in which they are immersed float on the surface of the liquid, and if the density of the object is more than the density of liquid in which it is immersed, then it sinks in the liquid. So this was our quick summary. So here we ended our chapter 10, which is gravitation. Now we'll start our next chapter, chapter 11, from next session. Thank you.